Okay, this is lesson 2-4. This is the last lesson in Unit 2. Um, so today we're going to talk about the word problems that you're going to see, specifically the type you're going to see on the test. So today we're going to focus on two types of word problems. Okay, so I put up the picture of the problem that was described on the last slide up here. And this is the picture I have. This is a car on a hill. It could be going uphill or downhill. I have it pointed downhill in this case. Where the angle here, theta, is called the grade of the hill. The grade tells you how steep the hill is. So a smaller angle is a less steep hill than a big angle. Okay, and here I have the equation they gave us, F equals W sine theta. Okay, so we already said that theta is the grade. Okay, F in physics, this is a physics problem. In physics we like to use normal letters. F is force. Oh, F for force, imagine that. And W is the weight of the car. So now we just got to plug in and use calculators to solve this. And what they told us is that we want to find the force. So the force is going to be unknown. So F equals W. They told us the weight of the car. The car is, I put it down, 2,500 pounds. So F equals 2,500 times the sine of theta. They told us the grade is 2.5 degrees. So sine 2.5 degrees. Now clearly that's not in our chart, so I have to run and get a calculator. Okay, got a calculator. So I have to put in sine of 2.5 and then multiply it by 2,500. So, actually I don't even have to do that. I can put it in, bring it up close. I can just put in 2,500 sine, actually I should put times, apologize for that, times sine 2.5, hit enter, and I get 109.04 pounds. Let's make sure I am in degree mode, so that's right. 109.048. And it says 109. So we'll round to the nearest pound is 109 pounds. So F (109) pounds, and I'm done with that problem. Okay, so on the next page I'm going to show you the same formula, same problem, only something just a little bit changes, and we'll find out what that is. Okay, do you see what's different on that problem? So on that problem, instead of giving us the angle, we have to find the angle. They give us F, they give us W, so we have to plug those in. So the force in this case was 530 pounds. So 530 equals, and the weight of the truck was 5,000 pounds. So that equals 5,000 sine theta. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to use algebra a little bit. I'm going to have to get sine theta by itself. So in order to do that, I have to move the 5,000. Now since the 5,000 is multiplied times the sine, the way to get rid of it is to divide. So I divide both sides of the equation by 5,000. Okay, 530 divided by 5,000, I don't know off the top of my head, so I put a calculator up. $530 divided by 5,000 is 0.106. So now I have 0.106 equals sine theta. Okay? So now, since I don't know the angle, but I do know what the sine equals, I'm going to be using, like we did last time, the inverse trig function. So I have to use inverse sine. So this is going to give me the inverse sine of 0.106 equals theta. So again, to the calculator. inverse sine 0.106. It's 6.084. So theta 0.1 degrees. And there's our angle. Now be careful with these problems. On these problems you want to make sure you read the instructions. The instructions will tell you how far to round. I rounded to the 10th. It might tell you to round to the 100th. It might tell you to round to the nearest degree. What's really important that you make sure you round correctly, as a lot of you learned on the last test. Okay, next I'm going to put up a slide that's going to illustrate what's called Snell's law. When light goes through air into another medium, the angle of the light changes. This is due to Snell's law, illustrated here. The ratio of the sines of the two angles that are created by the light is the same as the ratio of the speeds of light through the two media. The speed of light in this case is represented with the letter C. Okay, so I've put up two things that we know. This right here, as you knew from the 2 slides ago, was Snell's law, C1 over C2, where C is the speed of light, equals sine theta 1 divided by sine theta 2. And we know C1, theta 1, and theta 2. So we're just going to plug those in, and then we're going to have to cross multiply to find the answer. So when I plug in, C1 is 3 times 10 to the 8th. That's really fast. Light, turns out, is fast. Okay, so 3 times 10 to the 8th divided by C2 we don't know, so I'll leave it. C2 equals sine theta 1 divided by sine theta 2. So that's sine 52 degrees divided by sine 43 degrees. And I'm going to have to use a calculator to find both of those. You've seen me type in the calculator lots of times. I'm just going to do it without holding it up. So the sine of 52 is 0.788. And the sine of 43 is 0.682. Okay, now I cross multiply. So when I cross multiply, come over here and I get that 3 times 0.682, 3 times 10 to the 8th. Let me show you how to put 3 times 10 to the 8th in the calculator. That's something most people don't know. Okay, calculator. Looking at this, if you look here, I'll find it. Right above the comma, there's the EE button, and it gives you this little E. So if I put 3, and then I hit the little EE button, it gives me that little E. That little E in the TI calculators means times 10 to the. So if I put in 3E8, that means 3 times 10 to the 8th. So if I multiply that times 0.682, it gives me that big number. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that number as it is. That's 2 times 10 to the something. Let me see. Let's count. 1, 2, count how many zeros we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have to move it 8 decimal places. So that's 2.046 times 10 to the 8th. Okay, so that's 2.046 10 to the 8th equals 0.788 C2. Well, we're only one step away. All we got to do is divide by 0.788 on both sides. To get C2. Now watch what I do on the calculator though. You see how I didn't erase that yet? So all I got to do is take that number. I don't have to retype it in. I just put divided by 0.788. Okay, and that's going to give me that number. Okay, so let's count how many decimal places we got. We would have to move it there to get right next to the 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, imagine that. But this time it's 2.59, so 2.6 times 10 to the 8th. So the speed of light, C2, and units for speed of light is meters per second. And that's that. If you really want to do this problem a different way without having to count the decimal places, you can do this. You can hit mode on the calculator and you can change it to scientific mode. So when we get that answer like that, see it has the times 10 to the 8th on it. That changes. Don't worry about the number because I just divided by 0.788 twice. So it does the times 10 to the 8th thing for you if you put it in scientific mode, or you can leave it in normal mode and count the decimal places just like you do in science class. Okay, so now I'm going to put up another one. We're going to do this one more time. It'll be the last thing we do here. And instead of finding C2, we're going to be finding theta 2. Okay, last problem. Here are the givens. I know C1 is 3 times 10 to the 8th. By the way, C1 is almost always 3 times 10 to the 8th because 3 times 10 to the 8th is the speed of light in a vacuum. Light can't go faster than that, but other materials can only slow it down. So that's generally what we think of as the speed of light is 3 times 10 to the 8th. Through different media, it goes different speeds, but this is the fastest. So this is usually C1. C2 is 2.7 times 10 to the 8th. Theta 1 is 77 degrees, and we need to find theta 2. Either way, though, same thing. We're going to plug it into here. We're going to have to cross multiply. We're going to have to use the calculator to get the sign figured out. So let's just start by doing the thing we always do and just plug it in. So we know C1 at this point. So C1 is, so we're going to put 3 times 10 to the 8th divided by 2.7 times 10 to the 8th equals the sine of 77 degrees over the sine of theta 2, which we don't know. So now we solve out what we do know. Well, sine of 77 we can replace, because we can find that on a calculator. It's 0.974. Now, of course, that is an approximation. We stressed that last time. This is an approximation, not an exact value, because even if the calculator, even if you copy all the numbers off the calculator is rounding it to the nearest 12 decimal places. This number would go on forever if I kept writing it. So anytime I stop writing, I am rounding. So 0.974, 3 times 10 to the 8th, cross multiply. Okay, so when I got 2.7 times 10 to the 8th times 0.974, that's going to give me 2.63 times 10 to the 8th, and then we have equals 3 times 10 to the 8th sine theta 2. In order to solve for sine theta 2, we have to get sine by itself. So we have to divide both sides by 3 times 10 to the 8th. Okay, so we divide 2.63 times 10 to the 8th divided by 3 times 10 to the 8th, we get 0.877. So this becomes 0.877 equals the sine of theta 2. Once we know the sine, now we need to find the sine. We don't have the angle, but we do have what the sine equals, which means we can use inverse trig. So sine inverse 0.877 equals theta 2. I can plug this into a calculator. I'll round to the nearest degree. That's going to give me 61 degrees. Is theta 2. And that's the answer. Okay, we're leaning heavily on the calculators on these because we're not using angles and we're not using values that are found in the chart that you have. We're using different ones, so that's going to be calculator heavy, and that's how you do it. That's everything that's on your test we've gone through so far. So next class, we're going to do the work for this unit, and then after that there won't be a video, and we'll work on a study guide instead.